Good evening, and welcome to Bronco Talk. I've been away for the last 4 weeks. There really wasn't much going on, not much to really go live and discuss. Just need a little break. Been busy with work, and figured we would just come in here tonight for talk for a little bit about some of there's news. And there's Bronco signing, free agent signings, which we'll go over. The NFL season is usually 24/7, 365. But sometimes you just need a break. We did already have the combine happen. The combine has come and passed, and then free agency opened March 10th at about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and teams were able to sign players. We did have some trades that happened before the free agent deadline, and we'll get into those too. But since this is a Broncos show, we're mostly going to talk the Broncos real quick. So the Denver Broncos made 3 major signings, in my opinion. Players that weren't on the team. Coming into the free agency market, you would have said, hey, what's Denver's biggest needs? And I think one of the first and foremost spots I mentioned was tight end. Well, they have signed their tight end. They signed him yesterday. Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yep. Evan Ingram, Jacksonville Jaguars, was signed by the Denver Broncos. And I think it's ended up being a 2-year deal, $23 million, $16.5 fully guaranteed. Evan Ingram, as you can see here, played for the Jags. 6'3", 240, can catch, 8 years experience. He's going to be a good player for the Broncos to have. You can look at his career numbers and everything. So last year only played in 9 games, 47 receptions. The year before that, 114 receptions, 73. Regardless of 9 games played last year, to get a little bit of an injury, but you're talking about a player with instant impact. I mean, the numbers, he's better than anything the Broncos had on their roster at the tight end position, so an instant upgrade. Looking forward to having him on the team. He's 31 years old, but, I heard people discussing the age for him and whether that was going to be an issue. But the reality is some of the best tight ends in this league are over the age of 30. Your Mark Andrews, your Travis Kelce's, your George Kittles. Most of those guys are over the age of 30. And why is the tight end position, those guys are good at that age? I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's probably multifaceted of their body is at a certain, peak level. They understand the game because the tight end position is pretty difficult. Like, you not only have to catch the ball, you have to do your blocking assignments. You're kind of like an extra lineman at times. So there's these different things that they have to learn how to read coverages and different blitz packages and stuff like that as well. So it's a difficult position in general, and I think players that are rookies usually tend to struggle because what we've talked about is in the past is the Broncos potentially looking at, drafting a tight end in the first round, which may still happen, but I don't think it's going to happen right now. But again, it's early. There's some names that have been thrown out potentially for the Broncos taking the first round. Running back or tight end seem to be the 2 positions that they're looking at. But as you can see, Evan Ingram joins the Broncos. Great signing. Just based on the fact 2 years, it's a decent, cap size number, but it's great to have him on the team. Like, it's an instant upgrade at a position. So also Zach Wilson left, ended up going to play for Miami. Backup quarterback the Broncos traded for last year, former 2nd-round pick. They re-signed Jarrett Stidham. Good re-signing. Again, backup quarterback. Stidham can come in and manage a game for you. He's not going to light the world on fire for 17 games, but he can do a couple games for you. I like the signing. Trent Sherfield was another signing. I don't know how big of a signing this is. I don't really remember him too much. He played at Minnesota. 6'1", 206. 7th-year guy. I really just don't know much about him. I'd have to go back and, he's been in the league for 7 years, so he's done some good things. You see career 86 receptions, 1,000 yards. He's pretty much played 3 years with the Cardinals, the 49ers, Dolphins, Bills, and Vikings. So he's a career journeyman guy. As far as his height, he's 6'1", 206. Again, don't know too much about him. This is a guy who probably, Josh Reynolds got replaced. Could he? Again, I don't know. Is this competition? Does he end up potentially not making it out of camp? I don't know. But anywhere, $1.5 million of that guaranteed. Matt Peart was resigned, backup tackle. And then DJ Jones. I was really shocked that DJ ended up resigning with Denver, but it's a good signing for the Broncos to bring him back. I think it's a 3-year deal worth about $13 million a year, roughly. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw from San Francisco 49ers. That was the first signing that was announced for the Broncos outside of Tanola Hufanga. Don't think I said that right. But Dre Greenlaw, 3 years, $35 million. As you can see, it's been in the league now, 6 years out of Arkansas. 6', 230. He's going to play the inside linebacker position for the Broncos. Excellent, because I think Cody Barton's going to probably walk in. But if you look at him, I mean, career stats, good. It's a good signing. I mean, look, you can see 3.5 career sacks. Inside linebacker normally doesn't get sacks. 3 interceptions. He averages, it looks like, roughly. I mean, you look at 23 and 24. You could see here like 127 tackles, 120 in 2023. Was injured a little bit last year, so he's going to be a good player to add to this defense. And then the other gentleman we're going to talk about is Taliona Hufanga. This guy struggled with injuries, but it's an upgrade in my opinion over PJ Locke. So this is another guy that the Broncos have signed. Brought him in. He only played 7 games last year. He's an upgrade over PJ Locke, and that's kind of how you have to look at it with some of these guys. If you look at the contract they signed him on, they signed him on a 3-year, $45 million deal with $20 million guaranteed. This is one of those ones where I kind of have to wait to see. I mean, Greenlaw and Hufanga coming off of injuries, we'll see. But they're good signings because if I think about the positions that they're replacing, they're instant upgrades in my opinion. So that makes it worth its weight in gold. Let's look at some Broncos news. Our free agency tracker, and I think this is actually going to bring up Greenlaw officially signed. You can see here Taliona Hufanga signed, officially announced. Trent Sherfield, Evan Ingram. Justin Sternad was resigned by the team on a 1-year deal. Matt Peart, obviously, we already mentioned him. DJ Jones coming back. Mitchell Fabrioni, long snappers, coming back. I don't know if they had Jarrett Stidham, of course, came back. I don't think it has the guys that have left. But as you can see, it's, free agencies. So the first run of free agencies looks like it's done. First week's over. There's bigger news that's happened in this league. But as far as the Broncos go, I think they've just addressed positions that are of need. And I think that's really where, going forward, I have to look at it from that perspective. The tight end position to me is the biggest need. The running back position now is the second biggest need. It probably becomes the first biggest need, which depends on what will happen in the draft in April. Again, I still think the Broncos could draft a tight end in the first draft. You could still probably get a Coaston Loveland. Tyler Warren may not be available. And then you may end up going after a guy like an Austin Genty if you can get him, if he's available. But let's go over some of the other free agencies in the NFL. And we're going to start up here AFC's Josh Allen was re-signed, massive deal, $330 million, $250 guaranteed. Actually, let's go over here and look at this one from the ESPN perspective. And this actually comes all well. This is that's how this one works. We'll come back to this one. So anyway, the big names here. It looks like Joey Bosa was the big signing for them. He came from the Los Angeles Chargers. They ended up cutting him. But that's the big signing, I think, for the Bills so far. For Miami, obviously the biggest signing is Zach Wilson. I'm just kidding. It's not Zach Wilson. As you can see here, signed James Daniels. Looks like offensive guard, 3 years, $24 million. Not much there. I think they were pretty cap strapped. New England. They signed Mac Hollins from the Buffalo Bills. They signed a defensive tackle from the Philadelphia Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles lost a couple players on defense, ironically, especially after the Super Bowl guys got their ring and went and got paid. And that's kind of how that works at times. The New York Jets signed Justin Fields, quarterback, played at the Steelers last year. That is an interesting signing in itself. It just feels so Jets. And I'm not dogging out Justin Fields because I still think he's had an unfair shake, in the league. He's been on the Bears, who have been horrifically, statistically horrible with quarterbacks. And then of course he ended up, in Pittsburgh, competing with Russell Wilson. So I don't think he's gotten a fair shake, and now he's going to the Jets, and I don't know how that's going to end for him. I like the coach the Jets have hired, and Aaron Glenn. I just don't know where this ends up for Justin Fields. It's a good deal for him. 2 years, $30 million guaranteed, $15 million sign-on bonus, and a $5 million. It's a low risk. The Jets are quarterback. I wish him success. I really do. I think the Jets are coming off of the Aaron Rodgers debacle, and where you sat here and you traded away some of your future. Zach Wilson was there, didn't work out. They moved him on, and then you can see you took a shot on Rodgers. I can't really get mad at the Jets for trying. It didn't work out. There's teams that just don't do anything, and the Jets have tried. It's just the history of the Jets just hasn't worked out. I don't know if it's cursed or anything. I can't figure it out. But we're going to go to the AFC North. Baltimore Ravens. They signed DeAndre Hopkins. That's their big one. 1 year, $6 million deal. And, of course, they signed the tackle Ronnie Staley, staying with the Ravens at 3 years, $60 million. The Bengals. Samaje Perine, former Bengal, comes home. T. Higgins got the franchise tag. So $26.2 million. Instead of hitting free agency, I predicted he would end up with the Commanders. The Bengals have now tagged him. They're going to work with him allegedly here to get him a long-term deal. So they resigned Mike Gesicki, the tight end. I think belt's big here. Let's see. Defensive lineman TJ Slaton, 2 year, $15 million deal. Cleveland Browns. This is a trade. So the Cleveland Browns are obviously looking at some issues coming up in this offseason. Deshaun Watson got injured again, ruptured Achilles. He's going to be out again this season. The Philadelphia Eagles traded Kenny Pickett to the Cleveland Browns for DTR, Dorian Thomas Robinson, former player out of I'm going to swing over here. My bad. Former player out of UCLA. Spent a couple years with the Browns. He'll end up being a backup now to Jalen Hurts. But, hey, Kenny Pickett, he's got a Super Bowl ring. Got to play a couple series in the Super Bowl. He's a backup quarterback. Does he play for them? I think the Browns are probably still going to draft a quarterback, but Kenny Pickett could be day one starter, depending on what happens. But the big deal here, this is the biggest news here. The Browns re-signed Myles Garrett to a $123 million guaranteed with an average base per salary of $40 million. Probably, I think it's one of the biggest contracts for a non-quarterback in the league. And if you also look back at it, Ja'Marr Chase, the Bengals had a chance to resign Ja'Marr Chase, the wide receiver, decided not to do it, and they promised apparently they would make him the highest paid non-quarterback. Well, now you're going to have a wide receiver at $40 million a year if you resign Ja'Marr Chase. So, I don't know about this deal with Myles Garrett. For me, he's a good player. The stats back up how good he's been, but at the same time, this is a guy. It's a lot of money for an edge rusher. And I know, rushing the quarterback's at a premium at times here, but that becomes, you go, hey, like $40 million, like where's the return on investment? I mean, you had the guy on your team, and I know the Browns didn't have a quarterback. I know that for a fact. They didn't have a quarterback. We all know that. But the inability to win, just giving that money to a guy who I just don't know if it's a good deal. That's just my opinion. I know there's stats out there saying that he's been one of the best edge rushers in the league, but $40 million a year for one guy, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one for them, in my opinion. You can see they signed Devin Bush. Pittsburgh Steelers, Mason Rudolph comes back to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, remember, Steelers, I mentioned earlier, Steelers have lost Justin Fields, and they've now lost Russell Wilson to free agency. They decided not to bring Russell back. So now you're looking at Mason Rudolph as your quarterback and whoever you potentially draft. So Pittsburgh is now – there are rumors of Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. I don't know how true they are, whether they'll actually happen. But they also look at here. They made a big trade too. They traded for DK Metcalf for a second-round pick and a late-round swap. And Metcalf is now signed Pittsburgh with a 4-year, $132 million extension. I don't think if you're the Steelers, you trade for a Metcalf without potentially, looking at bringing in a quarterback to help out. And I don't think Mason Rudolph is that guy. Darius Slay signed a 1-year, $10 million deal. AFC South, Houston Texans. Christian Kirk was traded to them from the Jags for a 7th-round pick. You'll see potentially that they're still waiting to figure out what's going to happen with Stephon Diggs. Does he end up resigning? Does he test the waters? Mario Edwards resigning on a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. And then, of course, they acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles for a 6th-round pick in exchange for offensive guard Kenyon Green. Indianapolis Colts signed Daniel Jones to a $14 million deal with $13.15 million guaranteed. 1-year deal. Obviously, it's competition for Anthony Richardson, but also worried about Anthony Richardson's health. So interesting. The quarterback rooms out there can always be interesting at times, but the Colts are going with Daniel Jones as the backup. And don't anybody think he's the starter. I don't see it happening, but he's going to be the backup. Cameron Bayern, 4-year, $60 million contract. Signed Charvarius Ward, 3 years, $60 million with $35 guaranteed. So they upgrade on the defense there. The Colts do. With that being said, Jacksonville Jaguars signed Nick Mullins, quarterback. Out of I think Nick Mullins is out of Mississippi State. It could be, yes, he's out of Mississippi State. So he's going to back up Trevor Lawrence. Let's see, they signed offensive tackle Robert Hainsey to a 3-year, $20 million deal, $13 million guaranteed. It's for, and then they signed Eric Murray, 3 years, $22.5 million deal. MJD dropped that one. There you go. And Ian Rappaport. Tennessee Titans signed Brandon Allen, 1 year, backup quarterback. The Titans, again, first overall pick, probably going to end up taking a quarterback. Again, I need to look at the mock drafts, but that's probably their biggest need. Signed offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. It's the big deal there for them. Let's go to the AFC West. Of course, we were talking about your Broncos. Kansas City Chiefs brought Gardner Minshew as a backup. They signed Marquise Brown. Jalen Moore, they signed to a 2-year, $30 million deal for a tackle. And then they signed an non-exclusive franchise tag for Trey Smith, $23.4 million for the 2025 season. And then they re-signed Nick Bolton, 3 years, $45 million, $30 million guaranteed. Christian Fulton was signed to a 2-year, $20 million deal. Matt Ariza was tendered by the team. And then the long snapper came back. Las Vegas Raiders. Here's the other big trade. The Raiders traded for Geno Smith from the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, Pete Carroll's come in. Pete Carroll had Geno Smith as a quarterback there in Seattle for a long time. It's for a 3rd-round pick. I got this gut feeling that the Raiders are going to go with Geno Smith as their starter. And then with the 6th overall pick, I think they're 6th or 7th, they're going to try to go get the running back. I think they might go try to get Ashton Jeanty, and sit there and just try to play murder ball. It's a gut feeling. I don't know if it's going to happen, but they signed, you see, Raheem Mostert, running back, 1 year, $2.1 million deal. Signed the guard Alex Kappa, re-extended Max Crosby. Now, see, Max Crosby's deal, I rate Max Crosby higher than I do Myles Garrett. Like, that's a good deal right there for that. Like, $91.5 million guaranteed. I don't know what that is per year, but it's a lot cheaper than $40 million a year. It's not much cheaper, but it's definitely cheaper. And I just think Max Crosby is a better edge rusher than Myles Garrett. I know some of the stats don't bring that up, and it's also probably because I've been tortured by Max Crosby since he's been in the league as a Broncos fan, so I probably rate him a little bit higher than Myles Garrett based on that. But anyway, so Los Angeles Chargers, they signed Najee Harris, running back from the Steelers, just a 1-year deal. So that's kind of like the Aaron Jones deal last year, kind of a 1-year prove it type deal. Jalen Reagor signed with the team. Mike Williams is coming back to them after being with the Jets. Khalil Mack re-signed on a 1-year deal, $18 million that's fully guaranteed. And let's do it to the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys took Javonte Williams to the Denver Broncos. Now, I didn't think Denver was going to re-sign Javonte. I don't even think at $3 million it'd be worth bringing Javonte back. So, again, talked about Broncos and what they're looking in the draft. You allowed Javonte Williams to walk out the door. You haven't signed anybody for agency, even though players like Aaron Jones are available. You know, what are we talking about here? The Broncos potentially looking in the draft at Ashton Jeanty, Mario Hampton out of North Carolina. There are players there for them to take a look at. But anyway, that was the big one for me. And then they signed defensive lineman Oza Odighizuwa. 4-year, $80 million, $58 million guaranteed. So, and then Turpin resigned with them. Giants, Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito's back. Yeah, so the Giants are going to go with DeVito again. The draft and who's going to take a quarterback is really going to be good. That's going to be good drama the first 5 picks on Thursday whenever the NFL draft is in late April. But Darius Slayton re-signed with them. Let's see if there's any big names that made a move there. I don't see anything yet. Javon Holland. 3 years, $45.3 million. Philadelphia Eagles, they got DTR. We saw that. And then they signed Saquon Barkley to a record extension of $41.2 million in new money with $36 million guaranteed, $15 million in incentives. Excuse me. They resigned A.J. Dillon. They lost a couple defensive players in the draft. I mean, in free agency. They got Zach Bond to resign, and Dory Jackson went out the door. Or is actually back. Nice, he's signing. My bad. The Commanders re-signed Marcus Mariota, which I think is a smart move. I saw that the Bussin' with the Boys were making a joke about Mariota coming back to the Titans, and I thought that'd be an interesting move if they did bring him back. Let's go with where he started, but it's a good move for him to stay in the Commanders. He's a good backup. You want to stay there. If you're happy, you stay where $8 million a year to be backup. I'd do that. The Commanders acquired Deebo Samuel with a trade with the 49ers. So the 49ers, mass exodus of players, got themselves in probably a little bit of cap trouble, but a 5th-round pick to get Deebo Samuel. We'll see how that works out for them. They brought both their tight ends back, John Bates and Zach Ertz. That helps out for the young quarterback there. Will be going in his 2nd year. They got Laramie Tunsil for trade with the Texans. They gave up a 3rd and a 7th. Let's see, hold on. They got Jeremy Tunsil and a 4th-round pick in exchange for a 3rd and 7th and a 2nd and a 4th of next year. Let's see, anybody else? Javon Kinlaw. That's a 3-year, $45 million deal, 30 guaranteed. Bobby Wagner comes back on a 1-year deal. So let's go look at the NFC North. Chicago Bears, Terrors in the Midwest. They got Jonah Jackson in a trade with the Rams for a 6th-round pick. They got Joe Thuney from the Chiefs for a 2026 4th-round pick. They signed a center, Drew Dahlman. So they're upgrading their offensive line, just protecting on quarterback Caleb Williams. They got Deo Ode Bingo. Signed a 3-year, $48 million contract with $32 million guaranteed, and then signed Grady Jarrett from the Atlanta Falcons. So working on the interiors here, Chicago. That's usually, I think that's really good business from them. Protecting the quarterback and learn to pass and rushing the quarterback. Detroit Lions. Let's see. Made some resignings. They signed Derek Barnes to a 3-year, $20.5 million extension. No big signings, just re-signings and small free agent deals that aren't worth the reporting. The Packers, Aaron Banks, 4-year, $77 million deal. Isaiah McDuffie re-signed on a free agent deal. Nate Hobbs, 4 years, $48 million, the cornerback. And then they re-signed Brandon McManus. Interesting. 3 years, $15.3 million, $5 million signing bonus. Minnesota Vikings. Oh, I must have missed this one. They re-signed Aaron Jones to 2 years, $20 million. I mentioned earlier that he was free, but apparently he's not. So it's a good bit of business from the Minnesota Vikings to re-sign him. Justin Skoll, Will Freeze is there. 5-year, $88 million deal. Ryan Kelly, 2-year, $18 million deal with $9 million guaranteed. And then they signed Jonathan Allen to a 3-year, $51 million deal with a max value of $60 million. John Hargrave, 2 years, $30 million contract. Vikings have been busy. Harrison Smith was re-signed, 14th year in the league, 1-year contract, $10.25 million. NFC South, the Falcons signed Jake Matthews to a 2-year, $45 million extension with $38 million guaranteed. Let's see if anybody else pops off the list right here. Carolina Panthers re-signed Andy Dalton, and they signed Rico Dowdle from the Dallas Cowboys. They re-signed Tommy Tremble. They re-signed Brady Christensen. Austin Corbett. They re-signed him. Tershawn Wharton signs a 3-year, $54 million deal. J.C. Horn agreed on an extension Look at that. That is $100 million a year. Excuse me, $100 million life of the contract, $70 million guaranteed. New Orleans Saints, Juwan Johnson, we signed on a $30 million deal with a max value of 4.5. Chase Young returning on a 3-year deal. They signed Justin Reed. Yep, that was the one. 3-year, $31.5 million deal. Tampa Bay, they re-signed Kyle Trask. They re-signed Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $66 million deal. So that's he's staying in Tampa. Let's see. Did a lot of re-signings here. Got a big Hassan Reddick, 1-year, $14 million deal with $12 million guaranteed. NFC West, you can see the Arizona Cardinals brought back Jacoby Brissett as a backup, or they signed him. They signed him. Brissett was, I believe, Brissett was hanging out with the Patriots last year. That's right. I don't know why I said he resigned. Baron Browning, the Broncos had traded to Arizona last year. Gets paid, in my opinion, 2 years, $15 million with a max deal worth of $19 million. That's a good bit of business for him. Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles got his ring and decided to go play out in the desert. 4-year contract, $76.4 million, including $41 million guaranteed. Good business for him. Especially if you've already won. That's where I kind of look at some of these guys. I'm like, hey, why not go get paid? If you've won a championship and you felt what that win is, I know the grass isn't always greener and money isn't everything, but if the Eagles aren't going to pay you and they're not going to offer you a deal anywhere near what the Cardinals are going to offer you, then you need to go get paid. Football is a violent sport. These guys don't play for a long time. The average NFL career is 3 years. Go get paid while you can. Los Angeles Rams, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to back up Matthew Stafford. Hopefully they don't have to play him. Stafford ended up restructuring his contract. Well, here's the interesting notes, all right? Agreed to restructure a contract that will likely be finalized after free agency opens on March 12th. Ian Rappaport. The veteran quarterback who had 2 years remaining on his existing contract had received permission from the Rams to speak with other teams about his value, but ultimately decided to take a deal to stay in LA. And obviously, we'll go to the next one here. Davante Adams signed. Tutu Atwell re-signed. So Davante Adams left New York and is now going to be in LA. Alaric Jansen resigning. They actually cut Cooper Kupp today, or maybe it was yesterday. So they're moving on from him. I still think the Rams are the interesting team in the NFC West right now. Davante Adams, Tutu Atwell, and still Puka Nacua there. Pretty good guys to throw to. San Francisco 49ers signed Mac Jones as a backup. Let's see who else. Anybody that we want to talk about here from them? They didn't have a lot of outgoings. Seattle Seahawks. Here we go. Save the best for last. Sam Darnold played with the Minnesota Vikings last year. Had a really good season. Took him to 15-2. Just signed a 3-year, $100 million deal with $55 million in guarantees. So Sam Darnold's going to go be the quarterback for the Seahawks. They just traded away their best weapon in DK Metcalf. Yeah, we'll see how this works out. Like I said, I thought he would. I thought the Vikings would do what they could to keep Sam Darnold. I really did. I didn't think they would pay him like this because I know they have the young quarterback in the rookie out of Michigan who was hurt last year and wasn't able to play. His name escapes me right now, but yeah. I mean, this is probably the most money he was going to get. This is guaranteed starting position. I think Geno Smith had a ceiling in Seattle, and I think he hit it. I think Geno Smith has done a great job escaping the Jets and actually turning into being a decent quarterback. But Sam Darnold's got himself a payday, earned it. Now you're going to argue, hey, he was throwing to Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. Of course he was going to do well. Well, now he's going to get to prove it. I don't think Seattle's a bad football team, so it's not a horrible move. It's not like he's going to a bottom feeder that's going to pay him, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because now the careers are intertwined. The Geno Smith pick along with Sam Darnold. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be really wrong on this, so Geno Smith in New York. Jets. Let's look this up real quick. So Geno Smith started his career let's look here. So Geno Smith, come on, man. Let's go. All right, here we go. Geno Smith. I'm just trying to check because I think, oh my gosh, the stats are just not working today, my guy. All right, he spent 4 years in New York. All right. 4 years in New York. 2016, right? So 2016 Jets, 2017 Jets ended up being, who was the quarterback for this Jets team? Did it? No. Okay. So So the following year, Sam Darnold in 2018 was drafted for. Okay. All right. For some reason, I thought there was no break off there, but anyway. So they're tied together now. Those two are, right? And Sam Darnold, Geno Smith was the quarterback at the Jets, of course, from like 2013 to 2017. And then Sam Darnold was drafted in 2018. So both former Jets quarterbacks, separate teams, Raiders, have kind of you could go back and look at Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, Jets career versus what they did in the last couple of years. You're like night and day. So again, Justin Fields, good luck to you. You're going to need it. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence, 3 years, $42 million with $18 million guaranteed. Jaron Reed was re-signed, and then Ernest Jones. So that's it. The agency frenzy is just out there. It's again these the combine. I just saw something top 100 free agents, and it had who was still available. Free agency track. Let's look at CBS Sports, see what they say about free agency trackers. Russell Wilson. But yeah, just there's a lot of hope that's really put out there during the let's see here. So this is the average salary for each position per free agency right now. So setting the market value. But the free agency, there's a lot of hope that's bred off of that. Like I said earlier, we signed a safety and a linebacker, both coming off of injuries. And there's like this, oh, everything will be fine. Well, will it? Let's see here. Top 100 free agents. This was coming into this. It was Sam Darnold, T. Higgins, Josh Sweat, Trey Smith, Ronnie Staley, Milton Williams, Drew Dalman, DJ Reed. I'll have to go look, but I was looking at one earlier, and it actually had who was still available as the top 100. What's going on, Tom? How you doing? I have to find it, but it wasn't. Let's see, NFL free agency. Let's go look. See who the top 100s are left. But yeah, no, this time of year breeds hope, and there's you sign a player and you think, hey, this is going to be the guy that's going to fix everything. Oh, here we go, top 100 free agents. This is what's still available, according to Greg Rosenthal. Amari Cooper played with the Bills last year. Got traded there from the Browns. Wide receiver, 31. Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, played with the Chargers. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is still out there. So the Aaron Rodgers question, where does Aaron Rodgers potentially end up? I still think Pittsburgh's a possibility. There's also a world where Aaron Rodgers doesn't play next year and nobody wants him. There's also that world. His stock really tanked with the Jets. Stephon Diggs is probably going to re-sign with the Texans. That'd be my prediction. Calais Campbell, look at this, 39 years old, still doing it. But Jameis Winston's the other free agent quarterback out there. He's probably – you'd have to go look at the teams. Russell Wilson. So those are your three quarterbacks out that are for free agents. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. You're bringing Jameis Winston in as a backup. Russell Wilson potentially as a backup now. And Aaron Rodgers, if he's not a starter, he's probably not going to play for a team. So this probably could be the last swan song for Aaron Rodgers. But with that being said, we're going to get ready to head out of here. Thanks for everybody that came by tonight. Listen to me ramble about free agency. The NFL draft is showing up. We'll be up here coming up shortly, I think late April. So I'll probably do a watch along for that. But yeah, the Broncos, like I said, signed a linebacker, signed a safety, and then signed a tight end. Inside linebacker position is an upgrade. Safety's an upgrade over PJ Locke. And, of course, Evan Ingram's better than anything the Broncos had on the roster last year for a tight end. So now in the draft, we're probably going to start pivoting a little bit closer to that. Probably do some mock draft work next Thursday. And then we'll look and see exactly what the mock drafts are saying, because obviously the mock drafts come out after the end of the season. People know where they're picking. So there already is a mindset of, hey, we know it's going to be 28th. But free agency, that's told by teams like, hey, the Broncos, we thought they would go tight in the first round, but they picked up a free agent. So that probably changes their first round strategy. They may still go tight end, but now what position did they not address in free agency, or who did they not re-sign? So the Broncos right now have Estime on the roster. They have Jaleel McLaughlin on the roster. They got Tyler Bidet. I think Blake Watson still. So that's 4 running backs. A couple of those guys are practice squad guys. So they're probably going to be looking at running back in the draft. And, of course, with that being said, you can make it to camp and someone gets cut that you thought was going to make the team. So, but, yeah, the NFL season, there's a little bit of break. Some people like to keep – there was really not much for me to talk about the last couple of weeks. Been busy with work and everything. But needless to say, free agency rolls around. Get a little excited. Draft happened. Combine happened. And again, next week we'll do some discussions on the mock drafts. I'll look at a couple mock drafts and we'll go from there. But other than that, have a good night. Take care.